thank you for joining us here today. We have been able to put together a very interesting panel of experts for you to communicate with and to learn from regarding on how we're dealing with all the tremendous stresses that we're facing today, whether it is the COVID-19, the isolation, teaching the kids, teaching your parents technology, how you're dealing with employee payroll and their problems that they're having, how is corporate America dealing with the issues that have to do with the people just being pretty much furloughed. I am so delighted that I've been able to partner with Dr. Betty, a longtime ambassador for Latina Style and a friend, and a person that, you know, deals with this kind of issues all the time, all over the world, actually. So we look forward to having a tremendous conversation. Please do not be afraid to ask your questions. All your questions deserve to be answered. And if we don't get to them in time, Betty is going to tell you afterwards how to follow up. So it is a great pleasure. Again, thank you for joining us. I hope that this is really helpful. This is something that has been worrying me personally ever since we started working specifically with entrepreneurs more than anything else. Because the entrepreneurs of running your house, running your business, going to the PTA meetings, taking care of all the issues that happen around the household and keep a healthy relationship with your spouse, and maybe even taking care of your parents all at the same time. And now we have the incredible issue that we have to deal with this virus. So have a wonderful time. Dr. Betty is going to take it over, and please do not keep any questions that you have answered. Make sure that you get them out. No question is too silly. Only the responses may be silly, but not the questions. So thank you very much. And Betty, please take it over.
Thank you so much, Robert. And good morning, everybody. And good afternoon to some of you who are watching us from the East Coast and from Europe and from all over the world. We're so excited to be here. My name is Dr. Betty, and I am in Southern California and very excited to host this wonderful panel. A little background about me: I was born in Bogota, Colombia, and came to the United States when I was 12 years old. I worked really hard and got my doctorate in organizational leadership, and then I've been a mother of 3. I've been an entrepreneur in automotive, manufacturing, and then transportation and real estate. And then I've been a C-level executive in financial services doing multi-billion-dollar turnarounds. I've been a student, I've been a daughter, I've been an aunt, and all of the above. And COVID is something that is near and dear to my heart because it affects 100% of every one of you who is watching us. So Robert and I were talking about how do we bring some tools and education to people, and how do we get through COVID, and what tools do we have available to us, and what kind of education can we give? So this is where this was born. So welcome to the Tools to Manage Your Emotional Well-Being in Times of Crisis. I'm going to ask each of our folks that we have today, we're so excited, a very distinguished panel of people today. So I'm going to ask each of you to take 1 minute and just give us a high-level overview of who you are, your history, and then I've got a few questions for you. So let's start with Joanna. Why don't you start us off?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Joanna Rengifo. I am a clinical neuropsychologist at San Francisco Neuropsychology up here in the Bay Area, where we're having some nice weather today. I'm very thankful for this invitation to be a part of this panel on these very important topics that, like Dr. Uribe said, are affecting all of us. And in particular, what I do is work with individuals that may be having challenges with their thinking abilities, or maybe developing memory problems, or caregivers of those who are taking care of family members who might be developing dementia or have had traumatic brain injury. And we know that COVID doesn't discriminate. It's affecting everyone in one way or another, financially, emotionally, cognitively. And I hope to share with you all a little bit about what we know about the brain and COVID and how to cope.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rengifo. Now we go to Dr. Erica Gonzalez.
Hello, good afternoon. It's really good to be here, and thank you for the invitation to be able to join you guys this afternoon. I'm Dr. Erica Gonzalez. I'm an allergy immunology specialist in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm also currently the chair of the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber, which just happens to be the first Hispanic chamber in the U.S. So really proud of that. Right now, as COVID has started, we are definitely seeing that affect our patient population in a very big way, and also the people who are on the front lines. Some more my back history, I'm a U.S. Air Force veteran, so served 10 years in the Air Force, small business owner, and probably most importantly, a mother of 2 young boys, which keep me on my toes on a regular basis. So I'm happy to be here and share some stuff with you guys today.
Thank you so much, Erica. I really appreciate you being here. What an honor to have all of you with us. Dr. Mark Goulston, would you take a minute or so and tell us about yourself?
Yes, it is a pleasure to be here. I'm Dr. Mark Goulston. I was a clinical psychiatrist. I was on the faculty at UCLA for 20 years, and I specialize in listening. I wrote a book called Just Listen, which I'm humbled by, became the top book on listening in the world. It's in 25 languages. And my current work is on focusing on what people are listening for, because when you focus on that and you get it right, people lean in and you can be of much more value. So for instance, if I'm focusing on what you're listening for, I hope I get it right, is you're listening for from us the answers to, are we going to get through this? Yes. Second, how are we going to get through this? So you're looking for ways that are doable by you to get through this. And then 3, what do I need to do to get through this? So I'm hoping that that gives you a taste of what it's like to listen, focus on what people are listening for, and I'll be giving you more tips later.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mark. Wow, everybody's staying right on time, so we'll move right over to Alice Rodriguez. Alice, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. What pressure, too, to stay on time. Alice Rodriguez. I'm with JP Morgan Chase. I've been with the firm for 33 years. I'm a managing director, and I've had the real opportunity to work in several different lines of business with the bank. I'm also the incoming chair for the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which my term begins next month. So I'm very, very excited about that. Currently, I'm working on a financial health agenda for the bank, particularly for the consumer bank. So specifically, when we look at Latinos today, we see a lot of challenges, a real lack of savings, a real lack of liquidity. Obviously, with COVID, we have a lot of unemployment. And so my remit has been to really develop all the products and services and content, financial education content, to help everyone, all of our customers, either stay financially healthy or become financially healthy in the long term. Happy to be here, Betty.
Thank you so much for being with us. It's such an honor having you, Alice. And last but not least, our Entrepreneur of the Year, my Entrepreneur of the Year, Teresa Razzo. Teresa, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, well, first of all, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Robert and Betty, and it's a pleasure to be among such phenomenal people here and doing great things around the world to help each other. Well, my name is Teresa Razzo, and I am located also in Southern California, and owner and CEO of 2 restaurants, 2 Argentine and Italian restaurants, and also a market and deli and a catering company that's kind of there right now, stopped. Most important, a woman, a mother of 2 amazing, handsome boys, and the wife of a amazing and probably one of the best chefs in the world, and humble man in this world. So other than business, being a community leader, I'm blessed to be here and blessed to be where I'm at. And that's basically the gratitude that I have for the world and for everything that we've done.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Every one of these individuals here is not just doing only what we're talking about here. We're keeping the time a little bit tight because we have a lot to cover, but they're also doing a lot in the community. You want to get to know these individuals. Every single one of them is on LinkedIn. If you want to get to know them, look them up on LinkedIn. Look at their stories. Look at their history. These individuals were very, very honored to have each of them here. They are top of the line in their own line of business. So I have a few questions for each of you. And Mark, I'm going to start with you. In your work of listening, you've also done a lot of work with stress and a lot of work with suicide prevention. And you've done, you were the psychiatrist on the O.J. Simpson case. You're a famous person and you've done so much with stress. What are the signs? What are the 3 indicators? If I am a family member, or if I am an executive, if I am a business owner, and I see that people are kind of starting to act a little bit different, how do I know that this person is just getting ready to just go off the deep end or have a stress-related injury? Can you kind of give us some tips around that, Mark?
Well, I think 3 common things you can notice is they're either withdrawn because they're feeling overwhelmed, they're irritable because they're overwhelmed. When anyone asks something from them, they tend to get snappy, and they're engaging in compulsive behaviors. Compulsive behaviors are behaviors that cause us to try to comfort ourselves. So you're noticing that they've put on 10, 15 pounds. You notice other compulsive behavior. Maybe they're compulsively doing stuff on the internet. And compulsive behaviors are efforts to stay away from something. It's grabbing at something that will make you feel immediately better for the moment, but they always get in the way of our functioning. So I would say when people seem withdrawn, when people seem irritable, or they're engaging those behaviors, and will there be a time later when I can talk about how do you intervene with those people?
Go ahead and let us know. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to go ahead and expand on that.
Okay, so what's happening is when people are withdrawn, irritable, or engaged in compulsive behaviors, what's happening in them neuropsychologically is they've had a huge surge of cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. And when cortisol goes up, it readies our body for stress, but it really is at the expense of our brain. In fact, what it does is it causes our brain to be very reactive and we can't even think. It actually, for anybody who's interested in neuroscience, it triggers something in our brain called an amygdala, and the amygdala causes us to not be able to think clearly. Now, what happens to counteract high cortisol is another hormone called oxytocin. That's the bonding hormone. That's the hormone that enables young mothers to bond with their screaming infants, and it counteracts high cortisol. So any way that you can connect with people emotionally, compassionately, is going to lower their cortisol, and it's going to lower their stress. So when you have someone who's sullen, irritable, or eating a lot, something you can say, the acronym is FUA, F-U-A. I come up with these things that nobody remembers, but it's the FUA intervention. And when you're with them, what you say to them is, you seem frustrated, and you use the word frustrated because people are willing to talk about frustration. If you say to someone, you seem sad, you seem angry, initially they get very defensive. But if you say, you seem frustrated and I think you're holding back. So there's something that's kind of counterintuitive, and people say, what? Yeah, you seem frustrated and I think you're holding back because I think you're also upset and afraid. And then when you say that, they're going to lean in. You could say, tell me about each of those. Tell me about what you're frustrated about. Tell me what you're upset about. Tell me what you're afraid of. And then when they mention something, focus on a word in each of those categories that has emotion on it. If they use the word awful, horrible, never. When they say that to you, instead of jumping in with a solution, say, tell me more about the awful. Tell me more about the never, because what you're doing is you're enabling to go under. They will share what they're feeling. When they share what they're feeling and they feel felt by you, which is different than throwing advice at them when they're shut down and they can't use. But when people feel felt by you and they feel less alone, they start to cry with relief. So you're not making them cry, you're letting them cry. So don't misinterpret.
It's almost like you're in the water with them, right? Like you're
Totally in the
with
water.
them and they feel understood.
And when they feel less alone, they start to cry with relief and their cortisol goes down and they can start to think and have a constructive conversation with you.
Thank you, Mark. So frustrated, upset, and afraid. Make sure that you use those words and then talk about the feelings and then be with them in that space. When we're with them in that space, they don't feel so alone. We'll expand on that in just a little bit. Thank you so much, Mark. Joanna, you're a neuroscientist also, and you are a neuropsychologist. Can you expand and can you give us an idea, how does stress affect the brain? When you're in a brain fog, is there such a thing as a brain fog, and what can we do to cope?
Thank you. I think Dr. Goldstone described some areas that I'm going to expand upon. So you mentioned brain fog, and some people wonder, well, what really is that? Do we really have it? Am I going crazy? Why can't I multitask the way I used to? And, we can even call it quarantine fog. Is it isolation? We're at home, our schedules are backwards, or we have no schedules anymore. And all of those things, the stress, the lack of schedule, the sleep changes, all of that does affect the brain. And there is a term that we refer to as brain fog. Under these times of crisis, as Dr. Goldstone mentioned, under stress, we get these hits of cortisol over and over. Every single time we see the coronavirus numbers of deaths, or we see racial injustice, or we're worried about our older family members, hearing about friends that are sick. Every single time we get another hit of cortisol and another hit of cortisol. And that disrupts what we call the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It can disrupt our sleep cycle. It can disrupt our thinking abilities. And certainly we need to we need to pay attention to that. Not only to care for ourselves, but we're usually caring for family members, our parents, our children, our employees. And some of these things can take a toll after weeks and weeks and weeks, which we have been experiencing over the last few months. So a few things that we know that does help. First of all, this is a great time to be practicing that self-compassion, that kindness, practicing progress versus perfection, for instance. Exercise, just a very basic and practical way that we can really help our brain, not only our cardiovascular system, to prevent cerebrovascular risk factors that can cause stroke and whatnot. But what we know is that exercise really helps with neuroplasticity, helping to make those connections in our brain stronger and really help our mood as well. Eating healthy, keeping a routine. Our brain really loves routine. We need those anchors throughout the day. So even if we're not going to work, having a routine at home and a specific place to work, we need to be able to buffer against all of those cortisol hits that we're receiving every day. And those are the ways that we can protect our emotions, our well-being, our mental health, and our brain health, our cognitive abilities.
Thank you so much. I took so many notes. So progress versus perfection, exercise, which helps our neuroplasticity, sleep, And a routine is really important. We've been talking about routines. Every time I get online, we talk about it's so important to have a routine for your brain to be able to settle into a routine so that you're not just being pulled all over the place, and then to buffer against these cortisol hits. Thank you so much, Joanna. Really appreciate your wisdom here. Now I'm going to be going to Alice Rodriguez. As an executive running a multi-billion-dollar business, you're also a spouse and you've got a lot going on. So Alice, can you tell us, in your experience, what is it that you have found to keep your team focused in the middle of chaos? There's so much going on, not just in the financial services industry because of the economy going down. You've got COVID, you've got employees that maybe have been affected by COVID, or their families have been, and maybe their cortisol is going up, as we're learning from Dr. Joanna and Dr. Mark. So how have you found for other executives and management individuals who are working for a large organization in charge of so much, how do you do it?
So let me start with the first one, Betty, because you're absolutely right. Everything you said is what I'm hearing from employees. And we have had Thank You Week this week at JP Morgan Chase, where all of the executives have spent time going into the field, really thanking all of our employees who are on the front lines, right? We have many employees that work from home, but guess what? We have essential workers that have to be there present in our branches. And so back to that connection, I'm learning so much from Mark and Joanna and Eric. I hear about, what's happening in your body, and just that simple thank you. Even though we're all wearing masks in the branch, you could see people's eyes light up when you just take that minute to say, I really appreciate you. I have gratitude towards you, and seeing just the reaction. So I think having a program, a consistent drip with your employees to pass that gratitude, whether it's something where we dedicate a whole week, or we've been also doing a lot of things with Zoom, where we bring the employees in to, again, recognize somebody who's been nominated for this 5 Keys program that we have as an example. And I think that goes a long way. Another thing that I'm really proud of what the organization has been doing is we have a lot of resources available to our employees through the web. So we have a whole website that's dedicated to health and wellness. And we've had a lot of great, podcasts, articles, webinars that have been available to all of the employees. And I just want to highlight a couple of things that I heard through these webinars. One was just really ensure that you're approximate when you're, quote, going to work, particularly if you're working from home. So in other words, you really have to get dressed for the day. It's very easy to try to come in and have the yoga pants and maybe a little bit more casual. Instead, get dressed as if you were going to work, have a designated area of the house and stick to that. When it's time to go to lunch, in your kitchen or your courtyard or outside, schedule those breaks and really have an end time. The other one that I heard that was a very, very good webinar was all around building resiliency. So we all have that inner strength to get over all of this. I think I'm making the connection again to what your body's doing when you can do that. And so there were 5 specific steps that they went through on how do you build resiliency in the first place. Well, the first is really approach the situation or the change as a challenge, right? And that's just like a different lens, and your body's going to respond to it very differently. The second one is really to see the big picture in all of this. Like Dr. Mark said, it is going to end. This too shall pass. The third was really seek out interactions and people that make you feel better. So I want to reach out to Dr. Betty because she always makes me feel better. Believe in yourself. And then finally, take good care of yourself. That one is extremely important. Those things that you need to do to help your body and your mind and your soul, whether that's walking, exercise, get it done.
Oh my goodness, you gave me so much. This is amazing. So what I heard from you is, I love that. Consistent grip with your employees. Have a consistent grip with your employees. I've never heard a position like that, Alice. and how wonderful that you have all of these incredible resources, podcasts, webinars, articles, and you're gleaning those and you're giving those to your people. And so when we come back, I'm going to ask you to talk about your personal routine, about how you've been implementing these with your own employees. But before we do that, I'm going to go to Teresa, and I'm going to ask Teresa, how do you keep it together? How is it that you are doing this in the midst of chaos? There's been a lot of chaos. You have 2 restaurants, and as we all know, in the restaurant business, this has been one of the biggest hit businesses. Yeah. And so when you had to close the doors, you went and you pivoted, but you pivoted toward the community. So how have you been able to strive for progress when everything else around you is falling down?
Wow, that's a very good question, Betty. I think it's a complement of many things. First of all, I believe in people, and it's the people that surround you. And that's very important. And what Dr. Goldstein was saying also, to listen. I'm a strong believer that you always have to listen what people are saying throughout, not even COVID, even before, because people will tell you in different ways or means what their needs are or what it is. And it's the same thing here. I was able to even listen to my staff, communicate even just with the eyes. The community listened to us, saw the situation that we were in. So many calls that I got saying, how are you? Like, what can we do for you? What's this, what's that? And I think that is, first of all, number one, and all the support, and that includes the staff. The staff has been an amazing point in this situation where they all turned and like, this has never happened. It's new to everybody. So what do we do? So what I focus is always have communication with the staff. Always have honest communication, because they say, so what are we going to do? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do, or what, let's put it this way. I don't know what the end result will be, but I know what we're going to do. My answer to them was, we're going to keep feeding the soul, which we do we don't believe just we make food, we feed the soul. And we always garnish with gratitude. So that takes a long way. So I told them, we're going to keep feeding the soul, and we're going to open our doors and our hearts even bigger, because what I can see is there's going to be a lot more need in the community. So for as long as we can, we're going to do it, and we're just going to communicate, and everything is going to be okay. How? I don't know, but it will be okay. I said, we have to stay positive. We're really good at what we do. We've been in business for over 16 years. We know how to do this. Let's just keep doing what we do best and open our doors, and we have to change, we have to pivot, and always with a sense of gratitude. And we end the day when we close the door and we say, thank you. Thank you for another blessed day. Even if it wasn't the best day that you had, it's always a thank you for the best day. And we always want to make sure that goes a long way, and we not only say it, but we preach it and we share it. The staff knows what we do with the community. It's contagious. So once you put it all together and the staff knows, okay, it's going to be okay, and look what we're doing, and it makes you have that sense like, oh my God, there's so many people in a worse position than I am. I need to be thankful. I need to keep going. We're going to push together. And like I said, it's contagious.
It is, and you are contagious. When I keep talking, when I keep hearing you, it's there's so much there. So what I'm hearing you say is you are focusing not on what you don't have control over, but you're focusing on what you have control over. And that is so critical in times of uncertainty, to really just focus. We have control over this, the things that I don't know. And then the other thing that I heard you say is you're being open and honest with your people. Mm-hmm. You're just communicating with them. And you said the people that surround you. So you're surrounding yourself with people that are actually aligned with your core values and aligned with what you are all up to. And then you're saying communicate even with your eyes.
Yes.
And at times you go very quickly, so you're able to just communicate with them with their eyes. And you said we feed the soul and we garnish with gratitude.
Yes.
Those are 2 sound bites. Oh my goodness. Are those hashtag we feed the soul and hashtag we garnish with gratitude? I love that. Thank you so much, Teresa.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about how you do it when we come back. I want to hear more from you as a mother, as a daughter, as a spouse, because you're dealing with so many different things all at the same time. We want to get to how are you doing it for you? So we talked about how you're doing it with your employees. I want to get to Teresa. How is Teresa handling this? So I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it, Teresa, while I go to Dr. Erica.
Wonderful.
So Erica, you're an epidemiologist.
An immunologist.
Immunologist.
Yeah.
So when I first came to the United States, refrigerator was the toughest word that I had to learn. I had to stand in front of the refrigerator, in front of the mirror, just to be able to pronounce it. There's another word there for you. So Erica, why don't you tell us, can you give us some tips? We've heard a high-level overview of what's really happening in the business world, what's happening in the brain, what's happening in at the street corner level with employees, with parents, with all of these things, with being able to listen, or the brain fog, not being able to focus, not being able to concentrate, all of this. So these are the symptoms. This is the residual symptom. This is what's happening. So let's take it a step forward and let's say, how do we prevent it? What can we do now so that this doesn't continue going forward? What preventative measures can we take? Erica, you're breaking up just a tad.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yeah, that is much better.
Okay, sorry. A lot of the things that help us to prevent it and get us to a better place are things that we're hearing every single day, from the local news to the CDC. But one of the overlying themes, which I think everybody's kind of spoken to in their individual ways, is that it is a community effort. So we've all heard this, it takes a village. In order for us to be able to prevent the continued transmission of this disease, we really need to kind of see it that way. This isn't about us as individuals, but what we can do together as a community to help control this. So things like making sure we're maintaining appropriate social distancing, that 6 feet apart, making sure that when we're going out, we're wearing masks, not necessarily to protect yourself, but to protect others. There is such a high rate of people who are asymptomatic carriers, meaning they're able to infect other people, but they don't have any symptoms that never occurs to them. And that's about 70% of people are going to be asymptomatic. That's a good thing because we don't have a lot of people getting too sick, but bad in the sense that they are the ones that are most commonly going to transmit the virus. You want to stay at home whenever possible. And I know that that's getting harder because we're probably on month 4 or 5 of asking people to kind of shelter down. But you know, that's what we need right now, especially in some of these hot spots. And Texas is definitely a hot spot right now, Florida. We're seeing all these other states really start to feel the pressure of the increased rates of transmission that they're seeing. And the biggest problem with that is that it is overwhelming the medical system. And so that becomes problematic because COVID's not the only thing out there that we have to treat. We're looking at strokes and heart attacks, traumas. With the flu season coming up, we'll have the influenza to add on top of that, which is already a busy time of year. So we need to make sure that together we're helping our healthcare professionals by not overwhelming the system, not only with staffing, but also with supplies. There was a point where PPE was very hard to get. It's a little bit better now, but we don't want to run into this problem when we reach the fall and the winter again and we start to see the spikes. And then the last thing I would say is if you have any chronic medical conditions, especially if it's respiratory like asthma or COPD, high blood pressure, diabetes, make sure you're still taking your medications. The healthier we can keep ourselves at baseline, then if we are to be infected, we're a little bit more resilient from the health perspective to be able to kind of combat the disease. And it's simple enough on a lot of aspects as far as wearing your mask, social distancing, staying at home, just being patient. Just being patient. I think that's one of the things we can stress.
Thank you so much, Erica. When we come back, I'd like to look at the other side of some of what you talked about. You talked about the social distancing being 6 feet. We read different studies that talk about, okay, wait a minute, it's now a spray. And if you are in an airplane, how do you keep yourself, because as people are starting to travel, how do you do that? And then the wearing of masks, if you could also address that some of them are rumor and some of them are studies, and some of the studies that I've read, I mean, MIT will say something, Stanford will say something completely different of the same topic. So interesting to hear from you what your opinion is around the masks, the wearing of masks. There is a lot on social media, there's a lot on the news, and the opinions are completely opposing opinions. We'd like to educate our audience on wearing the mask. Is it 6 feet? Is it in the air? Is it going all over in atomic particles? What exactly is this? And why is it so important to wash our hands? And what is it that it does when we need to wash our hands continuously? So we'll come back to you. I just want to kind of give you a heads up on what I'd like to go to next. Before we do, though, I want to talk about balance, because balance has always been a real big struggle for all of us. And now more than ever, we talked about the morning routine. Alice talked about how important the morning routine, what is it that helps you be productive? What is it that helps you personally? So take your titles outside of this in your personal life. What is it that's helping you bring peace, stay focused? What is it that you do? Alice, can you start us off?
Yeah, happy to, Betty. So for me, it's really important to get some form of exercise, me personally. Like, that is how I can clear my mind, and I like it in the morning. That's my routine. So I am very intentional about not starting my workday until a certain time so that I have enough time to go do my running. So I like to run. I very typically will put a specific podcast of something that's very mellow, you know, not anything work related, you know, something that's completely of interest to me. And it's not news either, because I think that can, you know, again, set you off in a negative mood, but it's just interesting things about food or nutrition or spirituality. And that's my moment to just have peace. And like this morning I ran and it was 5:45, and here I live in Dallas, Texas, and it's so, you know, already dark now. You know, it just seemed like last month we at least had some, you know, dawn where you could see a little bit of light. But anyway, as I was like running through the darkness, I was just thinking, like, in so many ways, just being in the dark, you know, was really, really peaceful. And so for me, that's one. The second one I want to highlight is, you know, I do like reading, and I miss my girlfriends, right? I used to get together with my girlfriends and we had a book club and we designate a book. And for some reason, right, when COVID first happened, it was like, oh my God, we are not having our book club. And then, you know, we got smart like everybody else and said, well, we could still have our book club, but we could do it via Zoom, or we could do it via FaceTime or whatever. And then that, you know, became fun because it was just kind of cool too to see everybody in their homes, and they could always highlight, oh, look at this piece of, you know, furniture I just got, you know, online. Everybody was talking about, you know, because I am the last year of the baby where I probably wasn't as fast to adopting to going online to buy things. So I learned a lot from my friends about, you know, online grocery, etc. And then finally, I think that for me, I have a blended family of 7. We have 4 boys and 3 girls, and they're all adults. You know, they range from, 39 to 28. And, really ensuring that I'm staying connected to them, even though we know we are not seeing each other right now. And so we've just tried to be creative about maybe just having, one of the kids and their family over to the house, and, being able to spend time outdoors. It's a little hot right now in Texas to do that, but we figure out ways that still allow us to keep the social distance that was mentioned before in mind, but keeps me, that's what fills me. That inspiration from my children and my grandchildren is really, really critical to me.
Thank you, Alice. So the walking and at the podcast, so you're multitasking even when you're running. So, and I like the fact that you are listening not to the news, but listening to something that's nourishing your soul. So whatever it is, it's spirituality or learning or nutrition or something that's actually nourishing you. So you're nourishing your body while you're nourishing, and you're staying away from the news at that moment because you're taking care of you. I always talk about take care of your body, mind, and soul. And it's so important to take the time to take care of all 3. Thank you, Alice. Thank you so much. Dr. Joanna, let's go to you next. How do you keep your sanity in the middle of all of this?
I think it's great that you brought this concept of balance, because right now we are in quite a situation of imbalance. We are being overstimulated by the news, by events in the world that are very disturbing and emotionally valent, and we are also understimulated by those things that provide us joy and connection with others. I've had friends and family and patients that talk about how much they miss hugging their family members, and grandparents who miss hugging their children. That boost of oxytocin that Dr. Goulston mentioned that we need to buffer that cortisol stress. And so I think keeping in mind that staying connected right now is really important. It's one of the things that I've tried to do, although it's via Zoom, but I have been talking to family members that more often than I usually would do, putting together family dates. We've been using the House Party app. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but
Oh.
it's a great app where people can, up to like 6 or 7 family members around the country can join, and we can play games and trivia together on this app. And just by doing that, I've stayed in contact with cousins more than I usually do. Another thing that I found that we know is very helpful for the brain, but also I've been practicing, it has been very helpful for me, is minimizing those cortisol hits by minimizing the news. So we, just like Alice mentioned, we need that. It's important to stay on top of the headlines. Of course, we want to know the headlines, what's going on, but minimizing the details. We don't necessarily have to know all the details that are happening every day, because when we do, we dive into it, and again, it's another cortisol hit, and we can be doing other things that replenish our soul and our energy. Spending time with my daughter, learning to paint with her, trying new recipes with her has been really fun, and helping her see also that through these times of crisis and stress, that we can still grow, and that we can stay connected, and that we can find joy and find meaning in the things that we can do together. Walking my dog, Alice mentioned walking is so good, but I'm happy that I have a dog that I can walk, and he loves walking with me. And so any opportunity, I'll step out, and he's my excuse for wanting to walk more often. But yeah, it's really noticing that there's an imbalance and trying to buffer that with meaningful activities.
Thank you so much. So the app, I saw everybody writing down that app, because, and I did too, the House Party app. Is that the name of it? Okay, so everybody download the House Party app. And I also heard minimizing those cortisol hits by minimizing the news. You know, I do that. And anymore, I don't let the news take me. I take the news at my time, and I have an app that I look for the news, and I look for really good unbiased news. And I also listen to both sides so that I can kind of stay nice and balanced and make my own decision. But I do it in my time, not in their time. So that's so important. Thank you. And then, you know, growing and finding meaning and walking your dog and cooking with your daughter. I love it. I've been cooking too. I've been cooking a lot. Actually got a fryer, one of those air fryers, and I've been trying it. Oh my goodness. I've become the cook. So Dr. Erica, thank you, Joanna. Dr. Erica, we want to get into your household. And why don't you tell us how you are balancing?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that have already been mentioned, I think are very important. I think one of the things that I have allowed myself, especially right now during the pandemic, is one, to not feel like I have to control everything, because there's no way, you know, to do that. Focus on the things that you can't control. And I know that Ms. Teresa was saying that a little bit earlier, in order to minimize anxiety and fear. But making sure you find time to take care of yourself in whatever realm that is. I think that especially in our culture as Latinas, we're brought up to be the caretakers, right? So we take care of everybody's needs first, and then, you know, we come last. And that comes from a place of love, you know, of like, I want everybody to be taken care of, and then I'm okay if I'm last. But in a period like this, you really do need to find time to recharge your battery. I think that Dr. Joanna was mentioning kind of also disconnecting. So disconnect from social media is a good way for me to kind of not feel like my brain is always getting bombarded with that type of thing. So I'll wake up in the morning, make sure, you know, at least 30 minutes before my kids are going to be up, to enjoy just a cup of coffee, just a little time to myself. And then, you know, also make sure that I carve out time for me, whether it means, you know, just sitting there in silence or going for a walk, but making sure that you're taking care of your own mental health, because if you're not healthy, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else. But so I think giving yourself that permission is one of the most important things that you can do. And so that's what I love myself to do. I've learned how to say no. I've learned how to not feel like I have to answer that text immediately. And, you know, just so that you're not constantly feeling like you're being pulled in all different directions. So that's kind of good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you, when we come back to you, I'm going to ask you about you preparing to lead that chamber and how you're planning on leading that chamber in the middle of COVID. So if you'll just get ready for that. But you're right, it's that balance, and how is it that you can find that balance within yourself? So thank you so much, Erica. Really appreciate it. Dr. Mark, let's go to you next. You pour out your soul, you listen to people. You're one of the most popular professionals in the United States. You're in every podcast that I've ever seen, and it's like you're everywhere. How do you feed yourself? How do you take care of you?
Well, I keep running away from myself. That's why I'm in so many podcasts. You know, if you keep running away from yourself, you know, you can keep distracted. All humor aside, there's more truth to that than I really want to admit to. I think what I do is I try to be a first-class noticer. I had a mentor named Warren Bennis, and one of his great quotes was, be a first-class noticer. Because when you notice things, you become more aware. Like, I'm noticing that I'm looking into the camera here, so that I'm looking, you know, at all of you. And you can notice anything. And something that I shared, I think last week, was something I learned from some friends in the Army, what they do when they're in the middle of combat and stress. And they have something called the SLLS thing that they do. And I never heard it quite this way. And SLLS stands for stop, look, listen, smell. Stop, look, listen, smell. And I hadn't heard the smell before, but what it does is I think when you're feeling powerless, something you can always do, you can always just stop. You can stop in your tracks. You can then look. And so if you look to notice, you get connected to what you're noticing. And also if what you're noticing reminds you of something pleasant, that takes you further away, gives you perspective, and then you can listen. Like right now, I'm listening and there's a gardener outside the window and I've been texting my wife, get the gardener away because I'm on this Zoom call. Nobody's responding. So I hope you can hear me over the gardener.
We can hear you just fine.
And so that's the listening, but the smell is so primal. Like I grew up in Boston and I have this thing about pizza sauce. I'm sure I could have it about what Teresa makes too, but you get a certain smell and it just takes you outside of wherever you are. So I think if you want to pause occasionally, those are 4 things you can have power over: stop, look, listen, smell. So I'd recommend that as an exercise.
Now you're also doing some walking. And while you're walking, you're multitasking just like Alice. So you're walking and you're doing a...
Well, I have something called Dr. Mark's Walk Around Tips. So if you go to my Instagram thing, and it's in black and white, people will say, oh, that is so retro. And I say, no, I have rosacea. I've got this red nose. That's why it's in black and white. And but if you go to my Instagram post, it'll be a walk around tip, and I'll just come up with tips like I'm giving you today. Do you have time for one more tip that just came to me?
We will make time for one more tip.
Okay, a good friend of mine named Russell Bishop, he wrote a book called Workarounds That Work, and it helps you to work around anything. And he came up with these 5 steps, which I think are brilliantly simple. So the first step is when you're hit with something that you weren't prepared for. The first step is own it. Don't blame others. Don't deny it. It wasn't a bad dream. The second step is you say to yourself, given that happened, what's the best immediate result that I can get, given that the reality has just changed? So what's the best near-term result? That's the second step. The third is, what do I have control over that I don't need anyone's permission? Who can I call? What can I do that's under my power? That's the third step. The fourth step is, who do I need to contact to make that immediate thing happen? You know, what person could I call to take care of that? And also when you're calling them, it's important to have something to offer them because, you know, they're busy too. And then the fifth step is he calls, what's your response ability, meaning your ability to respond. And it's kind of like, okay, given all that, what are you going to do now? But I thought that was such a simple, you know, Lego-like way to look at things. So I just wanted to share that with you.
I love it, Mark. Stop, look, and listen, smell was the first one. And then you're giving us all of this incredible wisdom. So for those of you who are on Instagram, look up Dr. Mark because he will give you tips. And he's walking every day. I know he's walking every day because I have my little, what do you call that? The notices, or that I put in the notices so that I get them when you're on live. And I get them. And the tips are actually really good. They're short tips and they're very good. So very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. One last thing also is I have to overcome inertia to do a lot of my routines. And I don't think I'm alone. And so if you can just be aware of those routines that once you get moving, they loosen you up and you feel better. Because a lot of times, given all this fatigue, we all have to overcome, I don't want to do it. And then there's a tendency to want to just withdraw. It only makes it worse. So identify, like I don't really like walking every day, but after the first 500 steps, I say, this isn't so bad. And then after 1,000 steps, I said, boy, this is really good. Why am I making it so difficult? So just recognize that that's normal, that a lot of these routines you may not just jump into because of all the COVID fatigue we're feeling.
Mark, you don't need to respond to this. I'm just putting this out there. Isn't it just like when you set a goal, the very first step is the toughest one? Once you make the decision, I'm going to do this, and I take the step, I lean forward so that I have to take that step. Once I make that step, then it's easy. Then it's simple. It may be not easy all the time, but it makes it very simple. Just take that first step. Teresa, you have a lot going on. You have your mother, you have your children, you have one restaurant and the other, because you don't manage both of them at the same time. I've seen you at both locations. And then you have the community, the 5 restaurants that you're now helping grow, plus the donors now and the people that are distributing. Ladies and gentlemen, Teresa Razzo and Leo Razzo, her husband, have given away over 100,000 meals to the homeless and to elderly shelters. And so on a week's time, just in a few days, I talked to Leo the other day, he had given away 7,000 meals already in the week, and the week wasn't even over yet. Mm-hmm. So how do you do this? But let me go back to Teresa Razzo, the mother, the daughter, the business owner, the entrepreneur. How are you nourishing yourself, Teresa?
Well, I learned my lesson. It comes to the point, as all entrepreneurs, there's a point where in all mothers, and I think in every human being, comes to a point where you're like, you question yourself. Is it worth it? Am I doing the right thing? What do I do? I want to give up. You want to just give up. There's times. And I've learned that when I start feeling that, or not even to that point, now I catch up before that point, you have to realize it's too much for you. So you have to sit down and analyze and say, okay, what's my priority? What do I need to take care of? What nourishes me? What gives me that energy to keep going? So even if it's, like you say, something stressful, but it keeps me going or gives me more energy to keep going, I focus on that. And then I also stay very positive. I'm a strong believer of gratitude, God, and just putting the surroundings and aligning with the universe. And great things happen. When COVID first started and all this came about, it's like, okay, my first thought was, okay, God. And my first conversation was with God. And I said, okay, I know there's a reason why this is happening. And I know there has to be something good for everyone in this at the end of the tunnel. But I know you haven't taken me this far to just drop me. So I know there's something bigger for me. I promise I will open my hearts and my doors, and I will listen. I will pay attention, but you're in control. And had that conversation, and it was very magical. Then the next conversation was with Leo, my husband, and he said, his first question is, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to just keep doing what we do best. And what's going to happen? I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but we just keep doing what we do best. And looking at all the problems in life, COVID is a problem if you look at it. You have to find solutions. Everybody has issues. Everybody has problems. Let's look at the solutions and concentrate on that. I once saw a video that said, if you can fix it, why worry? If you can't fix it, why worry? So it's like, okay, so if you try to keep that mindset, and there's always other ways around. And maybe what you were thinking, the way to fix it, it's not what's the best way. So COVID has made me reevaluate myself as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, and as a business owner. And I am grateful for that. And that's what gives me the energy to keep on going. And one of the questions when I really want to give up is, first of all, I look at my family. I look at my kids and my husband, and I'm not going to give up. They're too precious. They're too valuable to even me think of giving up. And number two, I always say, I'm too blessed to rest, and I'm not gonna give up. And one woman one time said, and her name was Betty Uribe, I think I know her. She said, when you feel scared, turn that into excitement. So if you hear me say I'm very excited, you know what I mean.
Now I know what you mean.
You know what I mean. And I get excited, and it's like it's like a challenge. It's like, okay, I tell myself I am excited, and it's a challenge to become excited with the issues and the things that I have, and just concentrate in yourself, and put barriers of what makes you happy and what doesn't make you happy, and be grateful.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So surrounding yourself and aligning yourself with the right people, focusing on the higher purpose, which is something that I found in my studies of how do leaders do it, right? You focus on the higher purpose, and then the minutia doesn't matter so much when you're focusing on what is the vision and
Right.
staying true to that vision. Then the minutia doesn't matter anymore. And it's just not even an obstacle. It's an opportunity to get through it and learn from it. And if you can't fix it, why worry? I love it. And if you can't fix it, why worry? So
Yeah.
don't worry after all. I love it. I love it.
I take that, and not in a way where you don't care about things, but why worry? You're gonna, another thing that I say, it's like, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? If
Yes.
it's not gonna take my life or risk my family, well then let's go for it, and let's see what we can do. And we just have to stay in that. And why worry? Sometimes the human being just worries a lot more without even having an issue.
Yes.
Overthinking.
Absolutely.
So learn. I'm still do that because I'm always a person saying, what's the worst thing that can happen? So but my answer is, if it's, oh, we're good. We're cool. We can keep going.
Thank you, Teresa. I want to go back to Dr. Erica, and I would like to have you address the myth and the facts of washing your hands, of the mask, of the distancing. We hear so much about it. We have an opportunity. I can't let you all go without asking that question. Can you elaborate?
Sure, absolutely. And I think one thing to start off by saying is that, of course, the reason this is called the novel coronavirus is that because it is novel. It acts similarly to some viruses that have been around and that we're familiar with, but in other situations, we're still trying to figure it out. So when you talk about these myths and facts, it's almost like the myths are part of the truth. So nothing is ever completely wrong. It's just how it's framed. And so what I mean by that is hand washing with just plain water and soap is the best way for any virus to basically get rinsed off your hands. And the reason for that is that the coronavirus is actually surrounded by a lipid envelope. So it's a fat envelope. And so if you think about like a pan with dirty grease and you put the soap, the dishwash soap, and it just kind of clears the water out and puts all the fat away, that's the same thing that the soap is doing. So if you have virus on your hands and you're washing it with soap, you're basically breaking apart that virus. So that we know there's no real myth in that. It's a very safe way of kind of making sure that you can take the virus off your hand. The 6 feet distance between people really depends on what you're doing. We know that 6 feet is enough, that if you're talking to somebody and you sneeze or you cough or you yell, you speak very loudly because you get so excited, and as Latinos, we get very loud. So we know that that's enough space to protect each other from having those airborne particles kind of make it to an area where they could be contaminated that way. But let's say you were wearing your mask and you were sitting next to somebody and you weren't going to talk, you're just going to watch a movie together. In a situation like that, that 6 feet may not be a big deal, but we know that in general, if we're taking worst case scenarios, 6 feet, you could laugh, you can sneeze, you can, yell, sing, and do any of that, and the people will be protected. And the masks, if it's not a filtered mask, there are N95 masks that we use in the hospital that is to protect the user because they have filters where you can't breathe in the particles because of the particle size. The masks that we're asking people to wear in the community is more so that we don't get virus on surfaces that other people will then come and touch afterwards. So like I said, it really just depends on what situation you're looking for, but there is truth in all of that. And all of those things do protect our community. So it's something that, you know, at the end of the day, is going to continue to be recommended. The wearing of masks to 6 feet apart are very important, and the hand washing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. So in every myth, there's a little bit of truth, and absolutely get rid of the fat. This is the fastest way to get rid of fat that I've heard anyway. So wash your hands, get rid of that fat, and wash your hands regularly, right? And then sanitize your area is also really important. So when you come in from the outside, make sure you sanitize yourself, sanitize the area, and then that's 6 feet. So it is 6 feet. It's not more than that. It's 6 feet.
6 feet is adequate enough to, we know that's far enough to where any expulsion of particles from your mouth will not reach that person.
Okay, very good. There you go. So I'm going to flip it a little bit, and I always say we don't do this alone. It's something that I'm very well known for, because whenever we get to a certain place, I always say, you know, bring others with you. Don't do it alone, because you didn't get there alone. So you might as well give them the credit for the people that have giving something to you. So when you take a look at the power moments in your life, the one thing that you've done that you're just so proud of, and who was it that helped you get there? And I'm going to go to Alice first, because I'm going to ask you to answer 2 questions. And I think in the 15 minutes we have enough time for everyone to take 3 minutes and answer your questions. But I am going to give you, Alice, 3.5 minutes so that you can answer. Also, tell us about you are the president-elect of the National Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Ladies and gentlemen, this is no small task. So how are you getting ready for that? And if you can tell us about your power moment.
Yeah, so I am the chair-elect for the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I have been really spending a lot of time talking to business owners and talking to chambers to make sure that the constituents that we have, right? I have a pretty good idea, right, what the corporates think, but as I tell my corporate partners, including my employer, that's what you think, but unless you're on the ground, really understanding what is happening, you may be thinking you're solving a solution and you're really not. And so I would say I'm doing more listening, taking a page out of Dr. Mark Goulston's book or his thoughts, right? That's the critical part. And then I'm spending a lot of time with the staff, right? On those things that they think have worked well in the past and what they think we should do in the future. We had a strategic session earlier this year that I think will set us off to a really good place going into the next year. So I just want to hit the power moment, Betty, because I've been very blessed in my life to have, you know, several people be a part of different power moments. But I want to highlight one because this was a little different. Like, my mother was very influential in my life. My husband has been very influential in my life, but I have an example of, you know, sometimes, you know, your children are such great inspiration points as you're going through your journey in life. And so I had an opportunity, you know, I was in California. That's where I met Dr. Betty, and I was managing our business banking business there. And they asked me to take a job back in Texas, where I was going to be managing our Chase Wealth division. And you needed to have 4 investment licenses in order to do that. And I had had a few investment licenses earlier in my career, but these were different, and it was going to require a supervisory license. And oh, by the way, you got to get all this done in 100 days. And for any of you that out there that have ever taken any kind of licenses, we all know that they're intense and there's a lot of information and that's a short window. And unfortunately with investment licenses, and I'm sure it's the same with any professional license, right? If you don't pass the first time, you have to wait until they open another window for you. That can delay things. And not to mention you're in this, fishbowl where everybody in the company knows that you're taking these licenses and you don't want to.
And you're an executive taking the license. It's not like, oh my gosh, the stress is there. Yes.
So every day I would study at the dining room table at night, right? With my daughter, who at the time, my youngest, was in medical school. So she was, very focused like on her stuff. And so the morning of, I had already taken like whatever, 2 or 3 tests, and I had, thank God, passed them. And this was the last one, but it was the hardest one. And my daughter said, Mom, are you ready? And I'm like, I hope so, Maddie. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been at a, college, and just this whole getting back into this whole, focus. And she says, well, I have a tip for you. I just learned this in medical school. We had this lecture. And I can't explain all the medical reasons why. I'm sure the doctors on the panel could say what to do. But she said, before you take the tests, you need to get into the superwoman stance. And I said, the what?
Oh, yes.
Get in the superwoman stance. I see Dr. Joanna, where you just stand up. If I stand up, you probably can't see me, but basically you just stand up and you put your, hands here in you puff out your chest. And there's something that medically happens. And when I finished the test and I passed and I came home, she goes, Mom, did you do it? I go, yes. I think people were staring at me.
I love
When
it.
I got up and did it, but I thought I'm going to do anything that is going to help me pass this test. And so just a good example of how an old dog can learn new tricks. And it was a power moment for me, for sure.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. What a great thing. Okay, so we learned something new. Get on the Power Woman stands or Power Man stands, and then just go for it. Superwoman, there you go. Superwoman, there you go. So I'm going to ask the same question of each of you, and then I'm going to go to the questions from Facebook. And if we don't get to all of the questions from Facebook, please feel free to go ahead and ask. We're going to be gathering all the questions, asking the panelists, getting their answers, and putting them right back to you right on Facebook so that you're able to see them. So, Joanna, what is your power moment?
Well, my power moment is being able to achieve this degree and be a part of this wonderful career that I love, and work as a neuropsychologist, work with the Latino community. And I know that I wouldn't be here if it was not for my family. I absolutely would not be here if it was not for the support of my mother, of my sister, of all my family members that supported me. When I was 2 years in, I was already married and found out I was pregnant with our first child, and I was going to stop right there at my master's, and I wasn't going to continue. My mom sat me down and said, no, you're going to finish. We're going to figure it out. You're going to finish. And she just kind of didn't give me a choice. She knew I wanted to finish, but I was scared. And it's because of her encouragement, her vision, and her always having that attitude of, well, we will figure it out. That helped me be flexible and learn and ask for support and get here. When I matched for our field, we have to sign up for a match process for internship. And I was in California. My husband had to stay in California. He was in residency, in medical residency. And I matched to Florida. So I had to fly to Florida with a 3-year-old. I had never been to Florida. I found an apartment online and landed there and just went to my apartment that I had found. So I was supported by my tia Emilia, who flew with me and stayed with me for a few months so that I felt taken care of, and my daughter had support while I started my internship. And had it not been for her, for my tia Mercedes that also came out and flew and stayed with us for some time when I couldn't necessarily finish my dissertation, do my internship, and also take care of our 3-year-old, it was amazing. All the support that I received And I know I would not be here without them. So I'm every day grateful for the love that I've received.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Wow, very inspirational family. Absolutely. Erica, what about your power moment?
Yeah, so I think very similar to Joanna, my power moment stems from my family as well. So when you finish medical school, and the type of personality that normally goes to medical school is a very type A personality. So we talked about liking that control, knowing what the outcome is going to be. And so, you know, most of medicine, we follow algorithms. We know that if we do this, we're going to get this. And if not, then we do this. And so kind of, you know, a lot of things are already, there's not a lot of unknown when we're doing things. And so I started off my career in medicine in the military. So I did military medicine for 10 years, which is also very structured.
Yes.
You've got your SOPs, you've got, you know what's going to happen if you do this and that. So when I came out and was thinking about what I was going to do, I was in private practice with another physician for a while. And then my dad and my mom, both who are immigrants, but my dad's also an entrepreneur when he got here, was like, well, why don't you start your own practice? But there was too many unknowns for me. I wouldn't know how to balance a book. I wouldn't know how to run a business, how to do HR, how to handle insurances, because all of that stuff was done through the military for me. And I think that was a very scary kind of proposition, and thinking like, it's just too much. And so that I think my parents were both very supportive. And, you know, from their lives, I learned that they came here as immigrants, not knowing what they were coming to. I mean, there was a lot of question marks for them, but they figured it out along the way. And I think something about our people too, is that Latinos are resilient and we're hardworking. And so they encouraged me, said, look, if you just keep at it, if you're hardworking, you can get the help in those other areas that you don't have to know it all. You just have to know where to ask. And so because of that, I've been able to grow a business, and I owe it all to my parents.
Wow. So we're seeing a trend. You see the trend, family trend. Teresa, let's go to you next. What is your power moment?
Definitely family. You know, in this case, like you said, Dr. Betty, we don't do this alone. So it's very important to recognize, without my family, without the people around me, and without especially the staff, there would be no Villa Roma, there would be no Cambalache, there would be no me. I wouldn't be here talking to you guys today. But I do, if you want to, I've been thinking about it, and when I've been asked that question, what is your power moment? My power moment was when I became a mother. When you are a mother, if you thought you couldn't do certain things, when you're a mother, you know you can do certain things, or you can do pretty much everything. That's where it all started. So that would be my power moment. There's a lot of people involved. I can't pinpoint. There's a lot of points of my life that are very important, and that we've been a lot of sacrifices to get to there. But I think the power moment was when I became a mother, and that gave me the energy to keep on going. And also just everything, looking at my kids and looking at my husband, it's amazing. And my main pillar there is always been my husband. He's my mentor, he's my husband, he's my friend. He's a person that I can vent and he'll just listen, and then he'll try to talk to me, but then he'll know when I'm ready or when not to hear it. And then also he's the one that encouraged me and pushes me to keep on going. And certain things that's like, oh, I don't know if I should do it or not. And then he knows me so well that there's certain times where he's like, what, you can't do it or what? And I'm like, yes, I can. So he challenges me. Oh, I thought you can't do it, so that's why you're not trying. And I'm like, yes, I can. So, oh, okay, then. And then I do the same to him. So it's like he has my hand and he's got my back, I got his back. And very important, we don't like walk one after another one. We walk together, side by side. So that's very important.
Thank you so much. So family again, and it's your husband. Mark, what about you, your power moment?
Well, I hate to join the crowd here, but when my first daughter was born, who's about to deliver her first child on Monday, but when she started to make eye contact with me, so initially, they're not, little infants, they don't make eye contact. And I remember when she began to make eye contact, what she was saying to me with her eyes was, when I grow up, be someone I'm proud of. Don't be someone I'm embarrassed about. And she just looked right through me, and that's what I took in. And so all the things that I'd ever said no to, so I'm a real introvert. I can't say painful introvert anymore because my wife said you can't say that. But everything I'd said no to, I started saying yes to. I mean, the scariest thing for me would be to speak in front of a group. It was actually scary even to raise my hand sometimes to ask questions because it might be seen as impertinent, in the family.
Absolutely.
And so I just started saying yes to things, and I started speaking at first I started speaking at, nursing homes, anybody that would let me speak. And then I've created this monster. So now I speak all over the world. I spoke in Moscow to 1,000 Russians along with the Nobel Prize winner in October. So, but still inside I get scared, get the butterflies. Yeah, I was scared before this panel, but I see her looking up at me. I hope she's proud of me. I might have to wait for the eulogy. No, I think she's proud of me. But that's kind of my true north with my kids. Be someone that we're proud of. And that just pushes me. That pushes me.
Oh, I can totally connect with that. Thank you, Mark. What a beautiful, precious moment. There's a question we have on Facebook, and I'm just going to ask this question because there are a lot of Latinas that are watching, and there's one question that I'm going to go to, and then the rest of the questions I'm going to gather, and then we will ask the audience or the panelists to go ahead and answer. And the question is, being a Latina, how in the world do you keep your inner flame of resistance alive and going? Because some people look for hope and strive for progress. So if you can give me in 2 words or less, how do you keep that flame of resilience alive and ongoing? Joanna. Very quickly. Don't give me 2 minutes because we don't have 2 minutes. Joanna.
I keep the resilience alive.
In one breath.
And asking for support. Really
Thank
knowing,
you.
yeah.
One breath answer. How do you keep the flame? Erica, one breath.
My children.
Thank you. Alice, one breath.
Gratitude.
Teresa, one breath.
Gratitude and faith.
Gratitude and faith. And Mark, you're an honorary Latina right now. So for your life, how do you keep it? One breath.
There's an acronym, GSDBT 0, which stands for Get Stuff Done, Be the One. Be the one to do it.
Be the one. I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's your panel of an incredible panel of professionals, of heart-minded, community-minded, giving individuals who are brilliant in their space and who are amazing, emotionally intelligent individuals who just are here to give back to the community. If you want to get a hold of them, the best way to get a hold of them is through their LinkedIn. All of them are on LinkedIn. Look them up, Google them. They're amazing in their own right. I want to thank you so very much for being with us. And thank you, Robert, for the opportunity and the incredible privilege to get to know all of you better and to continue this dialogue, because we're going to have you back in the future. Robert, would you please join us again? And I'm going
Well,
to,
what
there
an
you go.
amazing, yeah, what an amazing session. You're the funniest looking Latina I've ever seen, Dr. Goulston. but your spirit surely is. Thank you so much. And another thing too, I don't know if you're thinking of joining the military or not, because you are you have more acronyms, you know. And Erica from the Air Force will give me testimony to that whenever you deal with the military, everything is an acronym, and you spend more time trying to figure out what things are. But thank you so much for your participation. I really enjoy all your comments. And Dr. Rengifo, there is two Dr. Rengifo, one has Uribe, but I'm talking to Dr. Rengifo. Joanna, thank you so much for all the input and all the valuable information that you've given us. Erica, Dr. Gonzalez, thank you so much for taking the time. To me, it's been invaluable. I've been taking notes, you know, around the clock. So it's been an amazing, you know, session. Alice, as always, congratulations on your presentation. I wish you and Erica the very, very best of wishes in leading the organizations that you're going to be leading, because, you know, anybody who has worked with a number of organizations such as we have knows how hard it is to deal with multiple egos, multiple interests. And then on top of that, you add the conditions under which you're taking the leadership of your organizations is going to be really a challenge. But please feel reassured that like it's been said in this panel a number of times, you are not alone. You know, we're all there to help. So please do not be afraid to ask for help if you need it, or even if you don't need it, just throw a comment, but maybe there are other ideas over there. Teresa, you girl have the hardest job of all. You really, really do. I wish you and your husband, first of all, I really congratulate you, and I wish you the very, very best of luck in able to maintain your business. I know it's going to be a tremendous challenge. I really recommend you. I mean, I really commend you for going to the community and doing what you're doing in the community, in addition to everything that you're doing. But there is a reason why, you know, all of a sudden we see Latinas taking over, for instance, all the chambers of commerce. And, you know, we have more presidents. We're going to be doing a story in Latina Style on all the Latina presidents of chambers of commerce, not only Hispanic chambers of commerce, but general market chambers of commerce. And there's a reason for that. It's like the stars align. If we need to save the community, if we need to save the chambers and the small businesses, I repeat what we've been saying ever since, you know, Latina Style was founded. Let the women run it, and things will be okay. You know, we were talking about power moments. You know, one of the most difficult moments that we've ever faced, with Latina Style was when my late wife, Ana Maria Arias, the founder of Latina Style, passed away in 2001. And all of a sudden, I had to take over her company for what I thought it was going to be a brief transitioning period. And then I found out that I loved her work a lot more than the work that I was doing. And now it's been, I don't know, 26 years that we're celebrating with Latina Style. And it is amazing to me that we've been able to do this. It's amazing to me what Latinas are doing across the country, and how they keep succeeding. Of course, you know, and I repeat this every time that I speak, the most amazing thing that I've seen happen during the 26 years of Latina Style is when Associate Justice Sonia Sotomayor joined the Supreme Court of the United States. I never thought that I would see that in my lifetime. That was you know, if there is one thing that I can give to Obama, is the fact that he nominated her and she was confirmed. And she's doing an amazing job there. You know, she's unfortunately, the court is skewed in a way that her opinions are always seem to be in the minority opinion, but that's the way things are supposed to work. But at least we have a voice. We have a very, very strong voice there. Not that the other side doesn't have our voice. They do have our voice as well. But being a Latina and being on the Supreme Court, I don't think that anything could be better than that when we look at that sector of our community. And Betty, you know, you've been a Latina Style ambassador, a Latina Style friend, a personal friend. When Betty and Lupita, my wife, met, within 30 seconds, they were hugging each other, crying like a baby. They cried and cried and cried and cried, and I thought, what in the world?
What the heck
You
is
know, and maybe, you know, maybe it's what Dr. Goldstone said earlier. It's like, it's that cry of relief that you found a kindred spirit, that
Yes.
you find somebody that stands with you. And Lupita Colmenero, my wife, that, you know, runs really the company. She you know, she sends her love. She's taking care of other business. For us, you know, we continue the mission. Very shortly, you'll be able to, actually on August 20th, you'll be able to see Dr. Erika Gonzalez again, because she's part of our Latina Style Business Series conference that we initiating from San Antonio for all of Texas, and actually for the country, really. And after that, Dr. Gonzalez, I'm going to ask you for another thing, and I want to surprise you right now. The surprise to me is that, and I apologize for not reading your bio more carefully, the fact that you're a military veteran. You know, on September 18, a very special date for us because it's Independencia de Chile. Yeah. And, but we'll be hosting the National Latina Symposium, the only national recognition that there is for Latinas in the military. And we've been doing that since 2004. And we also have brought in veterans and veteran ERGs for the companies as well. So, Dr. Erika, you know, the work that you do it's amazing, but the work that you already done is amazing. You're building your legacy. All of you have. And for Dr. Betty Uribe, my partner in crime, it's so good to have you, Betty. Thank you so much for helping us put everything together. For all of you, I want to, you know, I want to express my deep thanks. I'm getting the book today. I'm ordering your book, Dr. Goldstone, about listening. Because there was one thing that I've learned, you know, working with Latinas my life is like, learn to keep your mouth shut and listen. Latinos are very, very bad at listening. They always have an opinion that they want to give as soon as you open your mouth. So that's one of the reasons why I had the pleasure of introducing you and then get out of the way so you could speak freely. And leave Dr. Goldstone with the baton there to carry it for us, the guys. But we're living through such incredible, difficult times, and the pressures are not going to diminish anytime soon. We were very sad to lose from our staff one of our members, and not in the way you think. We lost the person that actually worked very hard with us on the National Latina Symposium, because when the children were told that it was okay to go back to school, Marilyn Carrion, that worked with us, said, you know, her two little children, I just cannot putting them back in school. So I'm going to take the job of a home mother, home teacher, and believe me, man, she was pulling her hair out on saying she now realizes how difficult it is for teachers to do the work that they do. All of us are feeling the pressures, but we're not alone, as you can see. So if we extend our hands to each other and we open our hearts, things will be, you know, we will get through this. And one thing that nobody mentioned, but I want to give it to you, is when you talk about a power moment, I have two things. One is my top 10, my music top 10 power music. And I listen to that every day, and you wouldn't believe how much it lifts my spirit. Whenever I get down, I just turn my music and I turn it loud. And when we're here, you know, like in the office, our staff is from a different generation. So my music, they kind of like it a little bit, but then they roll their eyes, you know. And but they've been tremendous as well. My staff is working through this times. And we all do it because we love the mission that we have. We love the work that we do. We love the fact that, you know, our community needs so much service. And don't let the politics of things that are happening really separate you and divide you. We have people in our community from every walk of life. We have from the diehard communist all the way to the right wing, almost Nazis. We have them there, but that, you know, it's our job to try to listen to each other and try to find a way that we can bring all of us together. And please, you know, if you're really concerned, vote. Make sure that you vote. Make sure that your voice is heard. Make sure that you recognize the accomplishments of either side. I'm looking forward to keeping in touch with all of you. And, you know, Betty and I were talking this morning, and depending on how this webinar went, maybe we'll be turning into a series on health issues, because the health issues that we cover them in passing. There's some that are really, really serious. Dr. Erica, you know, thank you so much. The one thing that you guys forgot, and it said, and I'm a fanatic of this, wipe everything. When you talk, you touch your keyboard, wipe it. When you touch the doorknob, wipe it. I mean, I'm walking around with my wipers everywhere, and I've gone, I don't know through how many tubs of that thing. And with that said, you know, Betty, thank you so much. Joanna and Erica and Mark and Teresa and Alice, thank you so much. And Teresa, again, you have a really, really hard battle to fight, you and your husband. So please do not believe that you're alone.
We will not give up. We will not give up.
Please don't.
In the name of many businesses and communities out there, we're not going to give up, and we're going to keep helping our community, which is what we do best. And God is in control.
Thank you so much.
And in turn, the community will continue to help you too, Teresa.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, with that said from me, Dr. Betty, you want to sign us off?
Absolutely. So don't forget, on September 18th, mark your calendars for the National Latina Symposium. And then we also have one more thing. If you think that Robert Bard has said enough, we get to hear a lot more about Robert tomorrow at 9 a.m. on my Facebook link, because I'm going to be interviewing Robert one more time. The last time I interviewed him was for my book and for my dissertation. So he is in #values in my book. And there's tremendous wisdom from someone who has been with women all this time. And so please take a look, take a listen. And Robert, thank you so much for being able to be here with you. And such a privilege to be in the company of greatness. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.